Hello.
Hello.
All right. So we are here with this week's Don't Hit That Snooze. Sorry, I just had to switch which room we're in.
Beep beep.
So yeah, welcome to this week's. This week we're talking our favorite games. Like I said a little earlier in stream, this was kind of a last minute throw together sort of thing. Um,
Yeah,
but it gives us a
that's
chance.
my bad. Work went really sideways this week due to holiday plannings for the office.
Totally fair. Totally understandable. But yeah, so we're gonna hop right in. We're gonna talk like why we like the games. We're obviously gonna give you a general synopsis of the games because you might have played the games, you might not have. Who knows? Totally.
You most likely played most of these games, but we just want to err on the side of caution.
Just in case. And I know that at least for myself, there are a couple times where I do throw in to let you know, hey, spoiler warning. All right, so let's jump on in. I believe the first slide is yours.
Oh, I'm first. Oh, okay. I only have up my Google Doc. I did not have up the slideshows as well.
You're good.
Uh, oops. I did not put this up in any particular order. Okay. So hey, spoilers. Well, actually, not. Yes, actually. Sorry, I'm a little frazzled.
It's okay.
Um, I did not write my own synopsis for any of these. DeWitt did. Um, I stole all of mine. I don't know how to write in broad strokes for anything. I'm very, very detail oriented. So this synopsis I stole from undertale.fandom.com. Long ago, two races ruled over the earth, humans and monsters. One day, a war broke out between the two races. After a long battle, the humans were victorious. 7 of their greatest magicians confined the monsters to the underground with a magic barrier. However, this barrier is not perfect. Many years after the war, in 21X, a human child climbs Mount Ebot for their own mysterious reason. It is said that those who climb the mountain never return. The child discovers an enormous hole in the mountain and falls in. After that, the story begins. The protagonist starts off their adventure in the ruins and soon meets Flowey, a sadistic flower who attempts to kill the protagonist for his own amusement. He is thwarted by a motherly monster named Toriel, who teaches the child how to solve puzzles and resolve conflicts in the underground. After a boss fight with her, she allows the child to exit the ruins. The way the story progresses in the main section of the game is determined by the protagonist's actions towards the supporting characters and other monsters. The storyline, as well as much of the dialogue, can vary greatly depending on the player's decisions. The 3 main paths are the neutral route, true pacifist, and genocide route. Sorry, next time I promise I'll read it very normal person.
No, you're good. Honestly, and I know I've said this before to you at least, but I love when you read stuff.
You're so sweet, thank you.
You just have such like a good voice for reading things.
Thank you.
But I honestly, so like I love Undertale too. I have never heard the synopsis like that. So I just want to toss
Yeah,
that out there.
yeah, I feel like they wrote it very, very well.
Mhm. And they don't show you how silly of a game it actually is.
No, I really like the pictures that you pulled for it because I feel like it really well encompasses all the different routes and like some of the craziness of the game. I love the doggo.
Oh yes. I had to make sure to include that because I wish I could have found a picture where his head is totally off screen, but
Yes. You want to pet him, but you cannot reach.
but yeah, so what about Undertale besides like this goofiness makes it one of your favorites?
Yeah, that is part of it. Like the characters are like just so fun and they're quirky. And they're funny. Like you keep looking back, like up there in the top left, like I'm Sans the skeleton. Like he's so funny. and, like, you look back and you laugh. Um, like, the music is so amazing. Like, I swear, like, Toby Fox can, like, literally just do music for the rest of his life.
Mhm.
Like, I love his music. Like, you still hear Megalovania everywhere.
Yeah, to this day, and there are still people who are covering it, like, doing, like, rock and metal covers, and there was one I saw that was with Tesla coils, like, oh.
Oh, that's wild.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like, they did that huge, massive concert,
Oh,
a few
yeah, yeah,
years
yeah.
ago, and that was still really crazy. So, the music, the characters, um, like, the writing is also really wonderful, like, in general and also, like, in comparison, of all the routes. Like, mostly, like, the pacifist versus the genocide routes. Like, the pacifist, it's like, "Oh, you have all these cool, fun characters," and then you have, like, the whiplash of the genocide. It's like, "Oh, you had all these cool, fun characters, and now you have nothing." Like, everything is gone.
Mhm.
And you're like, "Where did everything go?" "Well, you killed it all. It's all gone." It's like, "Here's the result of you doing all this," which is a very realistic result of everything you've done. And then there is also the neutral route, and I didn't realize until I had gone through, like, the wiki, there is at least 10 neutral endings, which was incredibly wild. Like, I knew there was a lot, I didn't realize there was that many, which shows, like, how much time and effort in detail he had put into that, and there was a flow chart.
There wait, really?
Yes. So, again,
I
that
oh, go ahead.
oh, no, it's just that website was undertale.fandom.com. Please walk around that wiki, that was wild.
So,
Please poke a
have you played it or did you watch somebody play it?
I played the game.
Okay. What was your do you remember what your first run of it was like?
Um, well, of course, when you first play it, you are shunted onto the neutral. Well, actually, no,
True.
that's not quite true. You can start with a genocide, but in order to do the pacifist, you have to do a neutral first.
Yep. Yep, 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 yep.
Yeah, but no, my first was the neutral and then the pacifist. But I
Same.
did um, I tried the genocide, but after Papyrus, I quit. I was like, bad feelings."
Terrible feelings, and you just it feels worse as you go along too,
Yeah.
because we got all the way up to Sands, which that's where we quit because that fight is
Honestly fair.
awful.
And that I
Um
had that in my notes because, like, the farther you get in the genocide run, it seems like the game is, like, almost actively going against you
mhm,
because it gets harder and harder to find monsters to level up.
yep. You specifically get, like, right before the end, and there is no monster that will come to interact with you.
Right. It's like, "You found nobody." It's like, "Well, yeah, because you're a psychopath."
Mhm.
And they're like, "No, I'm not getting that." And it's like, "Well, are you gonna quit?" It's like, "Well, any normal person would quit,
Yeah.
but not like, you have to." And, like, Sans even comments on that.
Mhm.
And that kind of almost leads into, my next note, which is the combat. Because in the
Oof.
Pacifist, the combat is almost, like, laughably easy because, like, you're making friends with everybody. You're like, "Oh my gosh, this is the best."
Mhm. Mercy.
You yeah, it's like, "Oh my god, yay!" But in the genocide, you're like, "This is the worst. I want to, like, throw myself into a ditch. I don't wanna do this anymore." Like, you wanna get it done just for it to be done.
Yes. Oh my goodness. When we did the genocide run and got to Undyne, oh my goodness.
Oh, man, because I knew I wouldn't have survived it.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah. Like, I watched, Jacksepticeye play do the full genocide run, and I was like, mm-hmm, mm-mm,
Not for me.
not for me, babes. Good for you. Oh, and back to the writing thing. Um, Gaster. Like, who's that dude? What's going
Right.
on with that?
Yes.
And like, there's so much unanswered stuff.
Mhm.
And now that there's Deltarune, it's like, are we gonna figure out? Are we gonna find out who that is? Do we
Probably
get
not.
to know? I want to know.
You will never discover the answers.
Yeah. Uh, but that's it on all of my notes. So let's hit the next slide before I just completely start rambling.
Okay. Well, speaking of rambling, like I said, I wrote so much. So, this is
Maybe.
this is Detroit Become Human.
Hey, it's that robot guy.
Yeah. So the synopsis I wrote for it. You play as 3 different androids with 3 very different lives. They each have a specific purpose. For Connor, who is the guy right here, with his back to you, and then down here in the car and over here at the bar, he has specifically been sent to investigate the deviant case with the Detroit Police Force. Kara, who is the only female on the screen here, acts as the mother figure and caregiver for Alice, whose father is an absolute ding dong. I hate that man so much. And then there's Marcus, who I adore. Initially, he was the caretaker to an aging artist, but due to some unfortunate events, he has now become the leader of an android revolution. How you get from caretaker to revolutionary, who knows? Is quite the game. So the game came out in 2018, and at that point in time, I was in college, and I didn't really have any games I was playing at the time until Black Dawn had shown me a trailer for the video game at some point in time, which the trailer is one of the trailers is drastically different from what I thought the game was going to turn out to be. But I found it absolutely fascinating. Eventually, he bought the game, and we played it together, and I just fell in love with it. So the top picture up here with Connor's back to you. This is the first introduction of Connor, and this is the very beginning of the game. During the first mission with Connor, it's, I mean, to this day, and I think it's because I've played the beginning so many times now that I'm just like, this is one of my favorite parts of it because it's a great way to introduce the mechanics, and it's a great way to introduce one of the main themes of the game, which is androids versus humans. So you see Connor getting off the elevator, and you can hear in the background that there's something going on with the police. And then this woman rounds the corner, and she's absolutely freaking out. And she comes up to Connor and is begging him to save her daughter, do anything he can to save her daughter. And then she realizes that he's an android. And then she turns spiteful and mean and is like, you're sending an android in to help? He's not going to do anything. And then starts asking for a human to get sent in. And what I think is interesting, and I thought about this today too, is it takes her a second to realize that he's an android, but also Connor is the very first of his kind. So the rest of the androids, so like Marcus and Kara, they're mass produced. So every single one of them pretty much looks the exact same. But with Connor, this is the first time anyone has seen anyone like him. So, I mean, you can't fault her for thinking that he's a human. But then you see like what happens as soon as she realizes, oh, this is a robot. This is an emotionless thing. I don't want him to try and save my daughter. Like, an android is why we are in this situation. And then, very similar to Undertale, this is a game about choices. But the really fun thing about it is anytime you play it, you are not going to get the exact same kind of playthrough. And that is what I absolutely love. So you can make Connor an absolute just mechanic by the book, doesn't give a damn about anybody except for his mission. You can make Marcus be totally violent and, you know, just be all about the revolution, or you can make him super peaceful and like see. I mean, even here you can kind of see the choices that he has. You have kneel, sit, raise hands, or raise fist. Like it's a very different outcome depending on what you do. And then with Kara, she can handle things violently to protect Alice, or much like Marcus, can handle things super peacefully, and things will just go smoothly for her. And they also will show you a flowchart at the end of each chapter or the end of each level to show you the many different routes that you could have taken. But the nice thing about it, you don't know what those other routes could have been. So we always sit there and speculate like, hey, we could have gone this route and I probably would have died right there. Or, oh, this is where we could have ended up shooting that guy. Like, it's so interesting to see how many different ways you can go. And then, of course, how all the other different characters react to your choices. And then another thing I do appreciate is the characters. So of the main androids, you have Connor, who, depending on how you play him, like I just said, I actually just said all of that without even reading my stuff.
It's memorable.
It really is. So honestly, and I feel like later on when I'm talking about different games, I do kind of go on about the characters a little more. But I kind of want to just focus on Connor because he is somebody who I could talk about at length for hours. Just focusing on his part of the playthrough, I could just talk about him forever. Because very similarly to Undertale, you can, like I said, go peaceful or genocide. Like, you can pit Connor against Marcus, or you can have them actually work together, which I find to be very interesting. So of the three main protagonists, Connor is probably my favorite, but it's a really, really close tie with Marcus.
I've heard of this game, and I've heard that Connor is very popular.
He is, and his voice actor also plays into that. Because he and his wife stream, and he tweets about the game all of the time. So anytime it's the anniversary of the game, he'll post something. He did a video also with Jacksepticeye. I think when when the game came out and he had the Connor jacket and he was just acting like him, and it was so cute. So in my playthroughs, I always try to make sure that he becomes a deviant, which just means he acts a lot more human-like, has a lot more empathy than if he were just to stick to the straight up android route. He works alongside Hank, who is this older gentleman here.
That's his name.
Yeah.
Mr. Krabs.
Yes, he is voiced by the same voice actor of Mr. Krabs. Which when we first played it, I was like, I know this voice. Why do I know this voice? And then it became very clear. And then it also helped us realize like how many other things he's actually in.
Really?
Yeah, he's in so much other stuff. I can't think of like off the top of my head. Like I know he's in Thor Ragnarok. Like he's literally in the beginning of the movie as like the big fiery demon dude. Surtur is his name. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but he's in that, and he's in something else, and I can't remember. But
I love how quick sidebar. I love how we were talking about this earlier, and I straight up texted you, Mr. Krabs, and you absolutely did not correct me.
Oh yeah, no, that is 100% him. But yeah, so Hank is this just stoic, hard-boiled, drunken detective. He doesn't want to really do his job because he's been doing it for so long, and he also hates androids. He has a perfectly good reason, which I won't spoil, just for, good reason. And then he's partnered up with Connor. And Connor, of course, he's a prototype, so he's trying his hardest to work this case so that they can make more of him and kind of make an example of him. um, and be like, "Oh yes, this is the type that you should follow." But of course, with my playthroughs, he's always turns out to be like this big old goofball who is always trying too hard to get on
Oh.
Hank's good side. Um, Most of the time, Hank just isn't having it. But the nice thing with their relationship is over time, you can see how Hank kind of forgets that Connor is an android. And it's really just like he's working with a good friend. And I always love when the playthrough turns out like that versus the other one where you can literally have Connor just point a gun at him. Like,
Uh.
yeah, no, that's not you, my guy. But the nice thing too with Connor, especially if you choose to have him go the deviant route, is you can actively see him questioning his own programming.
Mm.
As like he can't tell that it's happening, and maybe he thinks he's just putting on a show for those around him until you get to the very end, depending on like your route, of course, where he meets Marcus and starts working with him. You're like, now he realizes like, oh, cyber life is not about to be happy about this. And then one of my favorite parts that also shows kind of how he's um becoming more of a deviant and just like more human. There's a part where he's trying to break in to the evidence room and he is confronted by another one of the detectives who, funnily enough, is voiced and acted out by the same guy who plays Asterion.
Yeah.
And you can either be very by the book to try and trick him, like, oh, I'm just here, don't worry about it. Or I think you can punch him in the face and knock him out.
Good God.
Which I love that option so much because this guy is just such a jerk to Connor the whole time. But anyway, Connor goes into the evidence room and he's trying to figure out what Hank's password is. And Hank swears constantly. I can't remember exactly what the password is, but I swear that it has the F word in it, and it's so funny. And
That's great.
Connor just looks at it and he shrugs and he's like, of course. And just that like subtle
my
little
partner.
line. Yeah, it really blurs just the line between human and android. I will say the one tiny itty bitty little gripe that I have with it is that it's supposed to take place in Detroit, right? And we know Detroit.
Oh, aren't there the bunch of racism parallels?
I was trying to stay away from racism till we got to BioShock.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. But yeah, there is a lot of that. I was going to say the city in general, but yeah, there is a lot of parallels with that, especially all throughout Marcus's playthrough. You get that quite a bit. But we did like a year or so later after playing the game, we watched a video that made it very obvious that Detroit Become Human was a bit dated in a lot of the stuff that it deals with. But even so, it's still a very compelling story and very interesting. But the city aspect of it, they'll do at the beginning, the opening credits, they show a lot of landmarks of Detroit, which is really cool to see. But then the rest of the game, you're like, this could be any city in America.
Big city, USA.
Right. It's like when they do a big old zoom out shot of it, you're like, okay, I recognize that building. And then you're like on a street view and I'm like, I have never heard of that street. Could you please tell me where the heck that is?
It's Jones Street.
Right, yeah. But also another really cool detail in it, and then we can move on to your next one. Is that the actor who played Connor is from Novi.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah. So when you look at Connor's jacket, and I don't think I have a close okay. You can just barely see it down here. When you look at his jacket, there's a serial number on it. And the numbers on it are 313 248. Yeah.
Oh, shut up.
I know, right?
For
Uh,
those unaware, that's the area code for Detroit. Those
yeah.
are 313 and 248 are both area codes for Detroit.
Mhm. And then the other numbers, so 317 is the actor's birthday. Uh, there's the 5, which is the 5 members of his family, and 1 being that this is the first Connor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But when we were initially playing and I saw it said 313 and 248, I'm like, that is a very weird coincidence.
Yeah,
But no, apparently, yeah, the actor lives in or lived or lives, I'm not sure, in
yeah,
Novi. And so he, when they were making the game, he asked for that to be put in there.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool. Also, like, just looking at this, I'm like, which I guess is part of the blurring the line between android and human. Sometimes you can't tell that it's a game. Like, it's so crisp and clean that it's hard to
It
tell
is
sometimes.
incredibly clean.
Oh yeah. But that's my spiel on Detroit Become Human.
Yeah.
Moving on over to your next one, which
My
is
next one. Ooh, you wanna talk about an open game. I recommend this to anybody and everybody. I love this game. Oh my god, Fallout New Vegas. Oh my gosh. Okay, so, the synopsis I yanked from fallout.fandom.com. They choke my lungs out. The player character is the courier, who was originally hired to deliver a package to New Vegas, but is intercepted by a man in a checkered suit and a group of thugs. They steal the package, the checkered suited man shoots the courier twice in the head, and then leaves them for dead in a shallow grave. But that's not the end. The courier is rescued by a robot named Victor, who brings him to Doc Mitchell in the town of Goodsprings, who saves their life and nurses them back to health. Once the courier completes their medical checkup, they're sent out in the open world of the Mojave to track down their would-be killer, and in doing so, decide the future of the wasteland and its inhabitants. It's a very short synopsis because you can literally go out and do whatever you want,
Hmm.
and it's great. And I love we're gonna start quick. Good Springs is your tutorial, and it's such a brilliant tutorial because while you can just walk out and just leave Good Springs, it's recommended that you walk around and talk to everybody because you will learn how to play the game by talking to everyone. It teaches you, like, all your skills, your abilities, what does what, and they do it so cleverly, um, it sets you up for the rest of the game. And talking to people is actually a super great mechanic. So, it teaches you, it's like, you can just talk to everyone for the rest of the game. You can shoot everyone, you can shoot no one. You can science, you can talk, you can barter. And barter is actually not just a shop mechanic. You can use it to talk to people, you can use it to shop, you can do whatever. So by going through the tutorial, it teaches you uh, how the speech works for the rest of the game. Because what happens in the tutorial section is that someone got in a fight with the Powder Gangers, which is one of the various gangs throughout the game. And you before you do that, you actually talk to Doc Mitchell, who pulls the bullets out of your stupid head. And the guy in the you're like, okay, well, I got the bullets out of my head. I gotta find this bitch in the checkered suit and get back the thing I was supposed to deliver on the other side of the Mojave and talk to this robot who wears a cowboy hat, amazingly enough, named Victor, and he always greets you. He's like, "Howdy, partner," who also, creepily enough, follows you in various places throughout the game. And you're like, what's that all about? He'll just pop up. He's like, "Howdy, partner." You're like, "Hey, man, what's up? Just wanted to say hello." No, why are you here? I'm sitting here at a hotel with the giant dinosaur. How did you follow me here? I'm in the middle of the desert." But yeah, so you find, like, you get out quickly, out of the area, and they tell you, it's like, "Yeah, I totally saw this guy in a checkered suit. He went to New Vegas, which is east of here." Like, you could just go directly east here, but there's these super tough monsters, that'll totally murder your face off. It's not recommended you travel through there. And you could be like, "No, it's totally fine. I can totally go through, the murder monsters. It's fine." You could go try and run past the murder monsters if you want. The game does not stop you from trying to go past the murder monsters. But the game's like, or you could go south and check out all this cool, extra plot stuff and all this cool extra stuff if you want to check it out.
Just a
You see all
suggestion.
these random companions that are also, wandering around. There's this drunk lady called the Rose of Sharon Cassidy. She's stuck there. Maybe you could help her out. She's my favorite.
I was about to say that's a really cool name.
She goes by Cass.
Okay.
Yeah. But her government name is Rose of Sharon Cassidy. Yeah, she's outspoken, smartass, and she's funny.
Gee, I wonder why you like her.
I wonder why. She's great. But yeah, there's a bunch of companions in this game who are all varied with great backstories. They all have their own walks of life. Um, Unfortunately, you can only have two companions at a time, and my greedy little hands want to have all of them. Um, there's just so many places you can go, and there's multiple way. And the way this game has everything set up, there's all these different like missions you can go on. And the way this game is so clever is there's multiple ways the game will point you to all these different areas. Like one of my favorite vaults is Vault 22. And there's multiple ways the game will point you to that vault. The way I usually come across it is one of the main factions, the New California Republic, the NCR. One of the scientists will be like, "Oh, well, that vault manages to produce plant life. Can you please go and, get some research there, like download their computer and bring it back to us?" You're like, "Yeah, man, sure, absolutely." They're like, "Yeah, we'll even pay you money." And you're like, "Oh my God, yeah, money. I love money." They're the caps. Their currency is bottle caps because it's post-apocalypse.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they also deal in NCR dollars, but they're like, "We're so desperate, we'll pay you in caps." And you're like, "Score? Absolutely, caps." But as you're leaving, one of the lower scientists is like, "Hey, psh, come here. Listen, multiple people have gone to that vault and haven't come back. And one of our top scientists have gone and they've sent people to bring her back and they haven't come back. So be very careful." And you're like, "What? What do you mean?" And you're like, okay. All right." And this is also a vault that's just hanging out in the open. The door's wide open. It's unlocked. So you can just be like, "Doodly doo. Oh, hey, a vault." Boom, kick it open. So you find the vault, you walk in, and eventually you can come across the scientist.
Hmm.
And she's like, "What are you doing here?" And you can be like, "Oh, I just walked in. I found the place." Or you can be like, or if you came across the NCR scientist, you can be like, "Oh, hey." You can be like, "The top guy sent me," or you can be like, "Oh, the lower level scientist sent me." And depending on if you downloaded the computer or not, you can be like, "Oh, I also downloaded the computer." And she's like, "No, no, no, we can't do that. We got to destroy it."
Oh.
Right, and there's all these different decisions you gotta make. And also, this particular vault, if you've been poking around, there's plant life in this vault, which is super wild considering that you're in a post-apocalyptic desert wasteland. It's like, hey, that's really wild. But also, if you've been poking around at all the monitors and computers, they all died of a fungal infection.
Oh, no.
Yes. And you're like, wait a minute. And you've also been getting assaulted by plant men. And these particular plant men don't show up on your scope.
Oh.
You got a hip fire at them. You're like, oh no.
Oh, no.
I love this vault. I love this so much. I love this vault. And also, you have to pay attention when you're walking around because there's cool guns
We love cool guns.
just hanging around. You're like, hey, that's a cool gun. Give me that. Which also teaches you to pay attention. Yeah, I love this game because it teaches you to talk to people, to talk to multiple people, not just like the ones on your map, like not just the red dots, not the story significant ones. You want to talk to everybody. Ah, my house is haunted.
What?
I don't know. There was a noise. But there's two videos I want to recommend that I love watching on YouTube. The first one is H Bomber Guy, which I think everyone should follow on YouTube anyway. Fallout New Vegas is genius, and here's why. It's if you look, the picture is it's the title on a blue background, and the other one is it's just really funny. I just love watching it a lot. Is Unstoppable Moron Makes Nuclear Wasteland Noticeably Worse. Fallout New Vegas by the Russian Badger.
I love that title.
I love that title. And that also kind of tells you what you're in for.
Yeah.
Yep, that's all my notes. What's next?
All right. So.
Also, I'm sorry for glitching out earlier and trying to mute my mic while pulling up the Google Doc.
Oh, you're good. I didn't even notice. All right. So.
It's a cat.
It's a cat.
Oh,
Yeah.
you told me about this game.
Yes, I have. Oh.
I bought this game. I haven't played it yet.
You need to play it, and now I'm going to tell you all the reasons why. Okay. So this is Night in the Woods. Night in the Woods is about ex-college student May, who has returned home after dropping out of school. Lo and behold, everything about her hometown has changed, which she's not okay with. There's also this underlying plot of missing people, but I don't want to dive too far into that for spoiler's sake. So, slight background on me playing the game. Black Dawn's friend got me this game on the Switch for my birthday, and I immediately fell in love with it. Like, as soon as I booted it up and saw this silly looking cat, I was just like, all right, this is a good game for me. First off, like I just said, the main character is this goofy looking cat with these spooky looking eyes. And she affectionately, at some point, I don't remember if she's drunk when she says it, but she has nightmare eyes, which I think about that phrase constantly.
I know, like, please buy brown contacts.
That would be freaky, especially with the green in my hair right now. Ooh. But so as you can see, the art style is this super sweet, just fun 2D animation. And when they talk and use their arms just flop around like noodles. It's so fun. It also has these really fun speech bubbles. And when somebody is screaming, the letters inside the bubble will shake. Or
Ooh, I love that effect.
If they're saying something funny, it'll be all wavy. I love it. So what I specifically love about this game is the main character of May. So the game came out in 2017, but I'm pretty sure I got it like a year later when it came out for the Switch. Regardless, I was in college and could relate to May on a weirdly personal level. So she's this burnt out college kid who doesn't expect things to change, and when she finds out that literally everything in her life has changed, she can't handle it. I'm like, that was me in college, man. I feel you. So there's this scene that every time I play it, I just kind of have to sit back and I'm like, oh goodness. It's where May has gotten super drunk at a party, and her friend B, this alligator looking chick up top here, she's driving her home. May is going on and on about how things have changed and how she's sad that the two of them are no longer close. When I initially played this, I always thought B was being like super mean, but now I realize how terribly true her words are. I think back then I felt like she was speaking to me as well, because everyone I knew went off to college and changed while I stayed home and remained mostly the same, or at least I thought so. But B, time and time again, tells May that people change. They have to grow up and are no longer kids. And B constantly gets after May for remaining immature and not taking responsibility for her own actions in the past and present. Which, one of the running things with May is that she likes to walk across the power lines. And that's one of the mechanics in the games is you can climb up the telephone poles and tightrope walk across these telephone lines.
What?
Yeah. The funny part about that is that her aunt is a cop and has busted her several times for doing it, and tells her time and time again, like, you can't be doing this. This is incredibly dangerous. And May is just like, nope, I don't hear you. I'm just going to do whatever I want. La, la, la. Oh, I'm just like, this fair enough, kid. You do you. But there's just a lot of points where you can tell she's super immature, and like, yeah, she doesn't want things at home to change, or like, but she doesn't want to go back to school either, because she just school and her did not mesh. But there's also her friend Greg, who Greg reminds me so much of you.
Oh, I hope that's a compliment.
It is. It really is. He's great. Their friendship just reminds me of the two of us. Like, literally this picture over here, you can kind of see it, the like orangey picture down here. They're about to smash a car.
Wait.
Yeah, they're about, I think it's an abandoned car, maybe, I can't remember.
Oh gosh, that really does sound familiar, doesn't it?
Right? This past weekend. For those wondering, we didn't smash a car, we went to a rage room. Like, totally different things.
10 out of 10, recommend.
Oh, yes. But Greg is like, hey, let's go blow off some steam. Let's smash a car. So he gives May a baseball bat, and his line right there says, smash capitalism.
Oh my God.
I know.
I'm in a video game, okay.
And he's got a leather jacket, like, he's cool as heck.
Oh my God.
And she just goes buck wild on this car, and it's great. And he's so excited that she has come back to town, because it's like, without her there, he kind of had to grow up himself, because he didn't have his partner in crime. He encourages her to come back to their band, let loose, smash the car, and steal a parade float head. That part of the game is something else. But he also has a job and a boyfriend and can't spend all of his time with May, which he has a really tough time handling. That's a running theme with her group of friends, is like, B really doesn't want to hang out with her because they've grown apart, and B is still mad at her over something that happened in the past. Greg has a job and is, devoted to his boyfriend, and like can't constantly be there, and she doesn't understand that. And it's little nuggets like these that make the game so weirdly relatable, because I had these same sort of feelings in college when my friends went off and they got other friends, they got jobs, like they didn't have time because of all those things. And I was just like, you know what? I love this game, but I hate it at the same time just for those reasons.
Right. I love it. I hate it.
Yeah. The other thing that draws me back to this game is the soundtrack. It's this
Oh, I
just
love a good soundtrack.
like you don't even have to play the game, just go listen to the soundtrack because it's so, so good. It's just the perfect fall soundtrack. Like, and this game takes place in the fall. So the soundtrack is just so fitting. Like if you're just driving, let's just say just driving through the park on a fall day and you turn the soundtrack on, it just fits so well. And a little bit ago, it had popped back up on one of my Spotify mixes, and I just stopped the whole playlist and switched over to listening to the soundtrack.
Aw.
Um, and then I'm also, you should know this from D&D, I'm also a huge believer in the utilization of dream sequences.
Yeah.
And so Night in the Woods, this like up here, this top picture with this creepy looking metallic bird, that's
Yeah.
that's one of the dream sequences. And when you're first playing it, you're like, what the heck is going on here?
Mhm.
Like, this is so weird. Um, but as the story progresses, you realize there's a much deeper meaning going on behind the scenes and why May is having all these weird dreams. But I'm not gonna get too deep into that because that is spoiler territory, and I don't want to spoil it for you, especially because you bought it, and I really want you to play this game. Um, but yeah, and I also went as her for Halloween one year. I still have the shirt that I actually wore at some point last week. Uh, she is also the reason that my bangs were dyed red for a hot minute. Because when
I like the
I
red band. I thought they were cute.
they were fun. They weren't so fun when they faded. But that's just because I should have reapplied hair dye. Uh,
Eh.
but she's just very relatable if you are somebody very similar to me who has a tough time with change. And you realized at some point in life that the friends that you had kind of grew apart and you're all different people, which is totally okay. Um, but yeah, it's a great game. 10 out of 10. Recommend. After the stream ends, go listen to the soundtrack because you will just fall in love immediately from that. But that's all I have for that one. Let's move on to the next slide.
Moving on.
Beep.
Alright, I peeked at the slideshow, so I know what we're doing next. Alright. I'm noticing just a little bit of a theme now. Some of my games are varying back to a little older, while yours are still, like, in the newer like, within the past 10 years.
I'm gonna tell you something. I don't
Tell
care.
me.
I don't care if Black Dong gets mad at me for saying this to you. But when I was telling him this morning about what games you had picked, he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, of course she would pick Ocarina in Time because she's old." I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa."
Tell him to meet me outside, and he'll see how old I am.
Oh, those
This
Doc
game is a
Martens aren't just
classic.
for fashion.
What?
I said those Doc Martens ain't just for fashion.
Absolutely not. This game is rated as near perfect,
Hmm.
and I love this game. But that's why I included this in the set. That's why I picked games that I thought were great instead of my favorites.
Fair enough,
Because
yeah.
if I picked games that I thought were my favorites, I would have swapped this out for Final Fantasy VIII, which I
Mm.
knew was a controversial pick. Not
So
everyone likes the junctioning system. I know.
I know absolutely nothing about that game. So
That's okay. That's another old game. That's okay. That game is from like 95 or 98. So let's go before we completely left turn it. All right, the synopsis, which I yanked from ZeldaDungeon.net. The story of Ocarina of Time revolves around the Gerudo King and evil wizard Ganondorf's rise to power and the hero Link's quest to defeat him and return peace to the land of Hyrule once again. The game opens with Hero's mentor and protector, the Great Deku Tree, sending a fairy, Navi, to inform the hero about his new responsibilities. Navi escorts the hero to the Great Deku Tree, who explains that Ganondorf has come to the land of Hyrule and is vying for power. The hero leaves his home in Kokiri Forest and travels to Hyrule Castle to meet Princess Zelda. She explains to Link about a dream that she had in which all of Hyrule was covered in dark clouds. She asks Link to collect the spiritual stones of fire and water. The young hero goes to Hyrule Castle town and watches the princess being pursued by Ganondorf. At this point, Princess Zelda gives Link the Ocarina of Time. Link continues onward, undaunted, to the Temple of Time, where he receives the Master Sword. After removing the Master Sword from the pedestal of time, the hero falls into a deep sleep for 7 years, guarded by the sage Rauru. When Link awakens, he discovers that much has changed during the 7 years he spent sleeping. Rauru explains to Link what he must do, giving him hints or how and where to find the other sage medallions. With the help of Sheik, the hero travels to the temples and awakens the 6 sages. The hero travels to the Temple of Time once more, where he discovers that Sheik is actually Zelda. Ganondorf comes and captures the princess. The hero travels to Ganondorf's castle. Ganondorf confronts him for a final showdown, in which he utilizes the power hidden in the Master Sword and the light arrows to weaken and then defeat Ganondorf. The hero and Princess Zelda manage to escape, but before they can leave the ruins, they are confronted by Ganondorf in his true form, Ganon. The hero defeats him once again, and with the aid of Princess Zelda and the 6 other sages, traps the evil king in the sacred realm. The princess thanks the hero and returns him to his childhood. So the reason why I liked it was because one, as a child, this was a very simple story to wrap my head around. But as I got older as an adult, I could appreciate like all the nuances that were slipped in. There's themes about time and growing up and changing relationships. There's actually an amazing video done by Good Blood called, excuse me, Ocarina of Time Masterclass in Subtext. The pacing itself in the game is just really well done. It's super solid. It's a great even clip. It never feels like you're jumping or you skipped everything. It's not slow. It's just very steady. The environment itself, it's big, it's sprawling. It's also very varied. Like you feel like you've actually traveled the entire world. Like you're like Hyrule Field is an actual field. Like there's the Hyrule Castle, there's Kokiri Village, there's the deserts of the Gerudo, in all the different music. The music. Koji Kondo is God. Like that music is still played and recognized today. Like people still play that music and do covers of it today. There's another video by Save Data called Legend of Zelda Dungeon Music Analysis. It's a playlist in which he goes through and analyzes the music. He even talks about, sometimes he talks about where he gets the sheet music from, and he explains to you like hardcore, like the like the different tonal shifts and like what they represent, and like an absolute amazing breakdown in like talking about like the different music instruments and like what it all represents, and just it's absolutely wonderful. um I just absolutely adore this game. I feel like the battle mechanics are very simple and easy to pick up. The It's a wonderful jump to 3D. It's just a great game. I feel like I don't have a lot to say about it because it is an old game. Even like looking at these pictures, like the graphics still hold up super well despite being like a 26-year-old game.
Right, yeah, it doesn't look bad at all.
No. Mm, all right, next.
Okay.
It's just I'll sit here and I'll ramble on.
Which is fine. I mean, shoot, I was kind of rambling. If you have more to say about it, throw it in.
No, that's kind of it. It's just I've already made my basic points, and at this point, I would just kind of extrapolate on everything that has already been said. Next.
Okay. All right. Nope, that's too far. Too far. What the heck?
No, no,
No, back.
it's been my turn.
There we go. Goodness. My mouse was just like, hey, you want to go far ahead?
Like, wait a minute.
Okay. So, this is BioShock Infinite. Ooh, boy. So, where to even begin with this name or with this game? I guess so. First off, if you didn't know, BioShock Infinite is actually where I get my username from. To rewind back to lovely 2014. And this is before even getting into like the actual backstory of me playing it. I was trying to make up a gamer tag for the Xbox 360, and I was like, what game am I playing right now? Oh, I'm playing BioShock Infinite. And I love this character, DeWitt. That's literally where it came from. Couldn't tell you what the by night part is, but hey, here we are, literally 10 years later, and I'm still using the name. But anywho, so the game follows Booker DeWitt, who is a private investigator tasked with finding a girl to wipe away his debt. He winds up in a much bigger mess than he was anticipating, involving alternate timelines, a girl with supernatural abilities, and a revolution. Apparently, I just like games that have revolutionary themes. So I've said it a couple times before, but I grew up with just a PlayStation and a Wii. And with the PlayStation, we didn't even have like any sort of mainstream games. So I know Crash Bandicoot and Rugrats in Paris. So that's what I got from the PlayStation. And a Wii, of course, I had Wii Sports, some Nickelodeon games. So when I was in middle school, my sister was given an Xbox 360, which opened a couple more doors for my gaming repertoire. Honestly, that just meant I could play Skylanders, which still great game. Tried to get my nephew into it. He enjoys it, so I count that as a win. But my sister fell in love with a game called BioShock, which she attempted to share with me by showing me the trailer, showing my mom and I a little bit of the gameplay. I find it interesting that she tried to show my mom the gameplay because the original BioShock is a freaky game.
Yeah, I could not see your mom being chill about that.
No, not really. Especially she showed her the part where you can either save or harvest a little sister.
Oh no.
Yeah. So those of you who don't know, in the original BioShock games, there are these little girls called Little Sisters who harvest Adam, which is it's like a power-up type thing, without getting too nuanced about it. And you can either save them, which extracts all the Adam from their I don't remember if I'm saying it backwards or not. Extracts all the Adam from their body and turns them back into normal little girls, or you can harvest them and turn them into sea slugs. It's pretty gruesome. Yeah. But anywho, she tried to get me into that. It freaks me out way too much, especially the big daddies. But when Infinite came out, she got me to play the first little bit of it, and I was absolutely hooked. For one, this is a very pretty game. The art style is just absolutely beautiful. It's not as clean as Detroit Become Human, but it also came out 4 years before Detroit Become Human. So for the time, it looked incredible. Unlike its predecessors, which take place underwater, Infinite takes place in the city in the clouds. At the very start of the game, you take this little rocket ship up to the city, and once you breach the layer of clouds, you are met with the beautiful city of Columbia. It's crisp and clean, a perfect floating city in the sky. But, and this is where the racism is going to come back in, we can't forget that this is a game that takes place in 1912. And
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
And racism is everywhere.
It's alive and well, folks.
Oh yeah, it's a big old beast. The start of the game is ridiculously deceptive because you are presented with this perfect city where nothing could possibly go wrong. And then, spoiler alert, and like, this is a shock factor spoiler alert, which I had to sit back and pause the game for when I played as a 15-year-old. You are met with a lottery where the winner gets to throw a baseball at an interracial couple who is tied up on stage.
I remember watching Claire play that. And I just sat on the couch next to her. I was like, what just happened? She was like, I don't know.
I just remember, because I played this first part at my sister's house, and I just sat there and looked at her like, what are you having me play right now? But the good thing, and I mean, I guess the good thing, depending on who you are as a person, of course, you do kind of have the choice to A, do nothing, B, throw the ball at the announcer, or C, which is, the worst choice you could possibly make, decide to throw it at either one of the people in the couple.
Headshot.
Yeah. But no matter what your choice is, you're stopped and recognized as the false prophet because you have these initials engraved on the back of your hand, and that is the sign of the false prophet. Violence ensues, and then the game really takes off at a run from there. I love that opening scene just because it's such for one, the shock value, of course. But it's such a stark contrast to the opening of the original BioShock. Which of course I went back several years later, have not played it. I've watched Black Dawn play most of it, and I've watched Gab Smolders on YouTube play the whole thing. So in regular BioShock, you see that this beautiful city underwater city of Rapture. But once you make it inside, you see that it's an absolute mess and there is no chance of fixing it. Columbia is the same. However, you don't know right off the bat, and you're lulled into this false sense of security. You know that something is wrong, but you can't quite tell what it is until it's thrown like right in your face. And especially going back and replaying it, a couple years later, knowing like, hey, this scene is about to pop up at the beginning, you do notice that the only people that you see around are a bunch of white people. That should be a tip.
Fine.
Another aspect of the game that I adore is the use of these thing called vigors. So vigors are the abilities you're able to use during a fight, which include possession, fireballs, lightning, and sicking a whole bunch of crows on people to absolutely rip them apart.
Aw.
Needless to say, I now have that bottle tattooed on me. Vigors are the replacement for BioShock's plasmids, which boasted some similar abilities, but were created in a different time. The main usage difference being that instead of repeatedly stabbing yourself with a needle, you simply drink a mysterious liquid and have brief hallucinations. It's perfectly normal. Perfectly fine. Uh Story-wise though, Infinite is not super straightforward, and even years later my brain has a tough time wrapping around what happens in the game. Even so after I'd watched Gab Smolders play it, um I went and watched a video that showed you like the timeline of BioShock and BioShock Infinite, or BioShock 2, and BioShock Infinite. And BioShock's timeline, very straightforward, makes a lot of sense. BioShock Infinite, you get into alternate realities and you're just like, what the heck is happening here?
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole thing, but it's done pretty well. It is done pretty well. See, so Booker is not the only Booker, and there are several different timelines that have been created, each of which is his fault because he isn't able to grapple with reality. This man has so much trauma, it would take way too long to unpack here, but everything centers around the girl Elizabeth. That's the girl that he was sent to collect. Say what you will about Elizabeth. And initially, when I played this, I was also like, why is she here? I'm not a fan of her. But now, I believe she's a really well written character, and I will stand by that. Whether it's in the base game or the DLC Burial at Sea, which I played Booker's half of Burial at Sea, didn't play Elizabeth's half because the mechanics got too weird and tough for me. Because they're very similar to the original BioShock instead of Infinite. So I was like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. So I watched somebody else play it, and she is amazing in that. But she has this ability which allows her to open up tears between realities, which is an amazing game mechanic that can provide you with weapons, ammo, vigors, turrets, health packs, and a bunch else. So you can see down here on the slideshow this little picture where she's like surrounded by this colorful Parisian background. That's her ability. She's able to open essentially this gate to Paris. Yeah. And she's also, later on, you find out she's able to just rip open a tear in the world and hop into another reality. Besides that, Elizabeth starts out the game as this naive girl who's never left the safety of her tower. As the game progresses, you watch her grow as a person within a few days, becoming her own woman and learning the harsh realities of the world outside her tower walls. Yeah, she can be super dramatic sometimes, but you would be too if you lived in a tower guarded by a ginormous metal bird your entire life.
Yeah.
It has been several years since I played the game, all the way through. So when I sat down to play it recently, I was blown away by how much I actually forgot. Like, the game still holds up 10 years later, and it always manages to get me excited to try and play it again. But it's always funny because I usually get to the exact same spot, which is where you actually get the Murder of Crows bottle. And I just stopped playing for some reason.
I'm done.
Right? I'm like, I got my favorite ability. Oh, we're done. That's the end. But there's a lot after you get to a certain point where you're like in this old museum, and well, it's not an old museum, it's a museum, but you're looking at all these battles that have happened, and of course they're portrayed as any 1912 white person would portray them, with white people looking like the saviors. And you're just kind of like, huh, you know, this city really is crap, isn't it? It's just decorated in a nice shell. But I get to a point after that and I'm like, I don't remember how this game actually ends. Like, I know the ending specifically, and Black Dawn and I reference it all the time when we go swimming, which I will explain that after the stream, but I don't want to spoil everything. I remember that part, but I don't remember things that happen in between. But it's a joy to play. I suck at shooting games, and this is what that is. So I 9 times out of 10 always have a machine gun and just blast away.
Is there no easy mode?
No, there is. An easy mode, yes, it's much easier. And now that I am 10 years older than I was then, it's easier to play. But I still suck at shooters.
Oh.
But yeah, so I just kind of shoot wildly, throw vigors around, and have just a blast. But yeah, that's BioShock Infinite, and I love that game so much. So now we are moving on.
Okay, well then give me a whole second so I can rip up this synopsis to not be as spoiler heavy.
I go ahead. That's up to you. How much would you want to throw in?
I mean, this game is old.
That's fair, and I feel like listen, I may have never played this game, but Black Dawn has done his best to tell me about it, I think, kind of. So go nuts.
Well, here, let me ask this then. Do you want me to remove the spoilers?
No, I'm always down for a good time.
Sweet. Okay, then we're going to be here for 10 minutes as I read out the synopsis. Synopsis has been pulled by kingdomhearts.fandom.com. I thank you. Listen, we cite our sources here.
Fair, totally fair.
We're not plagiarists here. The story begins with the player in control of Roxas in Twilight Town. Roxas has dreams of Sora's adventures while increasing... What? Okay, sorry. This sentence looked weird for a second. Roxas has dreams of Sora's adventures while increasingly mysterious activities begin taking place in Twilight Town during Roxas's summer vacation. After obtaining the Keyblade to defend himself from the nobodies, Roxas comes in contact with a young man in black named Axel. Axel appears to know Roxas, though Roxas has no recollection of him. Roxas eventually makes his way into an abandoned mansion where a girl named Namine informs him that he is a nobody, although he did not quite know what a nobody was at the time. Finally confronted by a mysterious red-cloaked man named Diz, Roxas discovers Sora, Donald, and Goofy sleeping in the hidden basement of the mansion. Roxas merges with Sora. As Sora, Donald, and Goofy awake from their year-long slumber, Jiminy Cricket, who had previously chronicled the trio's adventures, finds that his journal is now completely blank, save for the note, "Thank Namine." After meeting Pete, a new villain, and speaking with Yen Sid, the party is informed that they must once again visit many worlds to protect them from both the Heartless and the Nobodies and attempt to stop Organization 13. In the course of their travels, the Heartless, headed by a revived Maleficent, and the Organization regain power, eventually forcing Sora to battle a massive army of Heartless that are attacking Hollow Bastion. Along the way, they learned that the Ansem they fought a year ago was actually the Heartless of Xehanort, and that the nobody of Xehanort, Xemnas, is the leader of Organization 13. They also learn that Xehanort was an apprentice of the real Ansem, who is missing. After the battle, Xemnas appears and reveals their ultimate goal, the Nobody's plan to create another Kingdom Hearts, a doorway to the heart of all worlds that will presumably allow the Nobodies to get their hearts back. After confronting and defeating more members of the organization, Sora goes to the world that never was, to settle the score with the organization for good. He also finally reunites with his friends Riku and Kairi. Sora learns the truth about Roxas, as well he and Naminé are, respectively, Sora and Kairi's nobodies, created when they lost their hearts in the original Kingdom Hearts game. In the end, only Xemnas is left of the original 13 members. Sora and Riku unite to defeat him, and his new Kingdom Hearts is closed. Sora and the others are returned to their homeworld of Destiny Islands. Although Sora has to say goodbye to Donald and Goofy, he knows in his heart that true friends are never gone. However, sometime later, Sora, Riku, and Kairi receive a letter from King Mickey after the credits. They proceed to read the letter, but the contents are left unrevealed. So, the reason why I picked 2 over 1 was because the fighting had been improved. Like, the controls are much tighter and responsive, and the gummy system is so much better.
Oh.
Um, it's now on an on-rails shooter, which makes it feel so much faster. They also have drive forms now, which it just feels so cool, so strong, and so fast. And especially once you get the ultimate form, which feels like the absolute pinnacle of Sora's abilities. Because the ultimate, the drive forms are Sora fight it. You kind of sacrifice is kind of the best word I can give. Um, wow, my brain really just turned off on me. Um, the drive forms, you have this gauge in the bottom of the screen. It's called the drive gauge. And you have to use so many bars in order to use the drive form. But depending on which drive form you actually want to use, you also have to use particular party members. Like example, the Valor form, you have to use Goofy, Wisdom, Donald, and then the final and ultimate, you use both. And each form has their strengths. Like Valor is very strong, Wisdom is magic and also very speedy, and so on and so forth. So, like, the ultimate form is like the strongest form that there is. Um, like Sora has like the super cool all black outfit. It's really cool. It's really flashy, and it looks so much better than the all red outfit. Uh, the story is a bit more mature question mark. I kind of want to say, though my nitpick is that it starts going off the rails, as you can kind of tell from the synopsis.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's totally fine that there were spoilers because I'll probably forget them. So it's
Fair enough.
okay.
It, it's rough. Like, as you keep going deeper into the series, just good luck. Honestly, it's easier if you don't pay attention to the plot. Like, by the time you hit Kingdom Hearts 3, you're like, what's going on? I don't. Like, I do know I kind of know what's going on, but that's because I've been in it for so long. I've been in since the beginning. Um, the other nitpick I have is Atlantica, and a lot of fans will tell you about that. That's where it's a rhythm-based level.
Trust me. So Little Mermaid is my favorite Disney movie. Um, Black Dawn had me try to play that part.
Oh,
No, thank you. No, thank you.
yeah,
I'm good.
yep. Yeah, a lot of fans are like, "Why is this here?" I will, of course, play through it because you get spells,
Mm.
and I'm like, "Yeah, I want the magnet spell, please." But yeah, it's like, yeah, I want Disney and Final Fantasy smashed together. How cool is that? Yeah, I want to go to Lion King World and
What?
play with Simba.
Why is Goofy a turtle?
Why not?
like, like they don't even change his
It's a great
head.
question. I have no answers. I'm sorry.
They don't even change his head. That's that's the part that gets me.
It's probably because he has a shield and a turtle has a hard shell.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, man. Disney and Final Fantasy, like, that's such a brilliant combination. But Kingdom Hearts 3, they just totally chucked that out the window. I'm not bitter.
I don't know, man. You sound a little bitter.
I'm only a little bitter. I'm a lot bitter, actually. Where are my Final Fantasy characters? But yeah, I love booting up Kingdom Hearts 2 and just the battle system is just so good. It's so quick, it's so easy.
Who would you say is your favorite character from the games?
Oh god, it's probably Riku. He's just so cool. He's
Oh,
just so cool.
totally fair. Do you have a? I know you were talking about like you really like the mechanic, the better mechanic of the gummy ship, but do you have a favorite world in this in Kingdom Hearts 2?
Would you laugh really hard at me if I said The Nightmare Before Christmas?
I would not. I would not.
I love their costumes.
That is totally fair. I've seen what they look like. They are pretty cool.
Like especially in the second game, like how you have both the Nightmare World and the Christmas World.
Oh,
Like I love that to pieces. How you get to explore both. And they have costumes for both.
that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's great. I do, and I also love the final fight for 2.
Mm.
But I also love the final fight for 1 is also super cool. But I think that's also because I love the voice actor for 1. The guy who did is it Billy Joel? I don't remember his name. What is his name? And some
Did you say Billy Joel?
I almost did say Billy Joel. That was very dumb of me. Kingdom Hearts 1?
I'm like, can you imagine?
Billy Zane.
Okay.
That would have been amazing though. Yeah. Billy Zane he just had such a cool, distinct voice. Like, I remember as a kid, I would just say the lines all the time to myself, like the little dork that I was.
Nothing wrong with being a little dorky.
Yep. It was so much fun being a little dork. Uh, but yeah, that is my love and appreciation for Kingdom Hearts 2. What's next? What is it?
Oh boy. Oh my, I'm sorry. I am scrolling through my notes and I realize that the last 5 pages are just solely dedicated to this game.
Oh, yep. I
Oh,
believe it. I see the slide.
yeah. Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
surprised your username isn't based off this.
Well, I played uh BioShock Infinite first and you know,
Fair enough.
so yeah. So so I specifically chose Persona 5 Royal um over the original Persona 5, mainly just for a couple things that were added to the game to just enhance its playability. So
Listen, we love bonus content.
we really love bonus content, especially when it comes to this game. So I didn't think anything could beat out the original Persona 5. And then Royal came out. And like I just said, I was absolutely blown away. So Persona 5 Royal is about a high schooler who, when they get to the metaverse, which is I'll talk about that in a second, he goes by the name Joker. And he gets sent to live with the owner of a coffee shop because this kid got into some trouble when intervening with a literal assault attempt.
Oh.
Yeah. So it takes a little bit to discover like what actually happened, but he was out one night and he overheard this argument, and it was between this guy and a woman, and he goes to intervene, and the guy is just like, "What the heck do you think you're doing? Like, get out of here." And then the guy pretends like Joker hurt him. Joker gets arrested, and it's a whole thing. So his parents are like, "Off with you. Get away. Go live with this coffee shop man."
Shame.
So while trying to attend his new school, he gets whisked away to the world of the metaverse, a cognitive universe that shows you a person's true desires. He and his new group of friends gain the power of personas and go about changing corrupt adults' hearts. So the base game, Persona 5, came out in 2016, and I remember going over to Black Dawn's house and watching him play bits and pieces of just this absurd looking game with these freaky looking monsters. He then introduced me to some of the music, which was and is phenomenal, but we will get to that in a bit. In 2018, I believe, the anime came out, and well, it's not great for a couple of reasons. It got me excited about the game and made me want to play it. It'd be a few months before I got my own PS4, but once I did, I became a hermit in the basement for a couple of months. And then, right at the start of COVID, Atlas released the newly updated version of the game, which promised new areas, new music, and most importantly, new characters to interact with. As I'm sure we can agree, those first couple of months of 2020 were pretty rough.
Yeah, maybe for you, 2020 was great for me.
Really?
Yes, COVID was great for me.
Oh.
But I was also a loser homebody.
Totally fair. Totally fair. For me, I couldn't see my boyfriend, my sister, or my nephew. Couldn't go on campus for school, which it sucked for a number of reasons, but it was finally the point in college where I had started making friends. And so just now, all of a sudden, I can't see people. And it sucks. Anywho, my one solace was that Black Dawn dropped off the deluxe edition of Persona 5 Royal on my porch one day. I remember this specifically because he was texting me and he's like, "Hey, I got you the deluxe edition. Can I come bring it to you?" And I went down to my mom. I was like, "Hey mom, he got me this and he's got to come drop it off." And she's like, no." I was like, "What do you mean no?" She's like, "He can drop it on the porch, but he's not coming in." I was like, "Okay. All right." I probably did cry, honestly, but the game made things just a little more bearable for the time. So first off, let's talk music. Once again, I am telling you, you don't even have to play the game because if you look at how many hours I have in the game, I have like 125 or so hours in the game.
Oh, clocked.
Yeah. So you don't have to play it, but I would recommend just listening to the soundtrack. Since I was a kid, I really loved jazz. So toss that into a video game and you have me hooked. Persona 5 has that perfect combination of jazz, funk, punk rock, and classic video game music. From what I've heard from their other games, Atlas does not miss with their soundtracks and put their whole back into the ones for both Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal. I like the music so much that I also use it for our D&D encounters.
That's hilarious.
I think last year, because of D&D, one of I think it's one of the final boss songs of the game, made it onto my Spotify Wrapped. But the art style is also super eye-catching. So a lot of what I have on screen here is like the anime sections of it. And then the two on the bottom there are actually like from the gameplay. But getting mildly ahead of myself. Every Persona game has its own color scheme, and Fives is red, if you can't tell. The transition screens, the all-out attack screens, Joker's gloves, just red, red, red. But it's done in such a tasteful way that it's not overloaded. The characters are also nice to look at. So like in the bottom screen there, you have just these very smooth looking characters. For Royal, they updated the talking heads for the characters, which in the slideshow here is this, what I'm referencing is this little head here that's got the speech bubble coming out of it. And something about the subtle expression changes just enhance the gameplay that much more, especially for a very specific character, which I will get to in a little bit here. Along with that, the palaces, which I have one of them as a picture here as well, this golden thing down here, which are the reflections of a person's heart, are gorgeous. Like in both games, and both games have the exact same art style. They look roughly the same with a couple updates here and there. Just the palaces are one of the most impressive parts about the game. Which after stream we can look at. I can show you them because, like I said, I could talk at length for this. I could talk for days. My personal favorite used to be the casino, which had so many different gambling motifs and mini games. But as of Royal, my new fave is that of my favorite character. It's a super sleek design that reminds you a little bit of a hospital, but as you advance through it, it starts to warp a little bit and become more unhinged the deeper you go. Speaking of characters, the new ones they added to Royal truly enhanced the story, along with the new friendship option for a character that was in the base game. First off, you have Kasumi, who you can see her up top here, kind of. And she's a brand new student at the school that Joker attends. She's athletic and hype about everything. And she's younger than most of Joker's other friends and really looks up to him as a mentor, even if the rest of the school believes that he's a delinquent. So word gets out super fast that Joker has been arrested, and that's why he's been sent here. So the whole school, just 90% of the game is just ragging on Joker, like, oh, this delinquent, like, oh, this idiot here. Even the teachers give him crap. It's just like, what the heck? But everyone that he makes friends with just sees right past that, especially Kasumi, because you meet her relatively early on in the game, and she's just like, "Oh, you're such a cool dude. Like, can you like help me better myself?" And that's basically what her whole they're called confidants. That's what her whole confidant is like she's trying to get better, whether it be athletically or just as a person. She's just trying to make herself better. And there's something just so sweet and innocent about that. And she's just really cool as well. Like she's a gymnast, so she'll do different things like backflips and whatnot that you're just like, wow, that's pretty impressive. Like, good for you.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. There's also a really cool twist at the end of the game that I'm definitely not going to spoil. But it involves her, and it's really, really, really cool. Also really depressing, but it's really cool. So then the other character, which I could talk at absolute length about and have so many notes about, is that of Goro Akechi. And that is the brunette here lying next to Joker.
Okay, so
For
before you start talking,
yes.
are they gay?
It's kind of like a Vash and Wolfwood situation.
Got it.
Yep. Um, but
It's just
yeah,
hey,
anywho. That picture definitely does not help the case.
got it. It's just okay, as long as you understood where I was coming from.
Oh, of course. Of course. Um, so for one, I can now, because of this game, I can recognize his voice actor almost anywhere. And his voice actor is Robbie Daymond. Which if I played a clip of you of his voice, you'd be like, I definitely know this man.
Yeah.
Um, and then same goes for one of my other favorite characters, who is Yusuke, whose voice actor is Matt Mercer. It's like, hey, I know you. Anywho, moving on. But otherwise, he's just a really well-written foil to Joker. What I appreciate about Royal is that it opened up a real like friendship path with Akechi. So in the base game, you just advance your friendship pretty much anytime you talk to him. Like anytime you run into him and it's definitely plot driven, that's when your confidant advances with him. Which I was like, I get it. He's part of the story, whatever. But Royal really gave him like an actual good backstory and friendship with Joker. So then at first he seems like this kind of goofballish kid detective who has this big old chip on his shoulder. Because he's helped solved cases and he's really well known and he's young and handsome, so everybody swoons over him. But as you get to know him, you discover the layers underneath all that fame and intelligence. Like I said, I have so many notes on his relationship with Joker, and maybe at some other point in time, I will talk about them. But I think I talked about it off stream last time, but I have a notebook that is just filled with different anime video ideas that I had, and one of them is the relationship between Akechi and Joker. And I have several pages of notes. But one thing I want to circle back around to is the talking heads that I mentioned earlier. So I'm dipping into spoiler territory. So especially with Persona 5, just because it's such a complex game. If you're listening to this, you may want to mute, or if you're later on listening to this, you might want to skip ahead some. I'll give you a second. Okay, good enough. So Akechi actually turns out to be a bad dude who has been killing people in their palaces.
Oh no.
Yeah. Instead of changing their hearts, he just ends their lives. I'm not gonna get. Yeah. He a bad dude.
You know what the permanent solution is? Death.
Right? Yeah. You're a bad person, you're gonna die for it. Which very much, and I'm just now realizing how much they kind of made Akechi look like Light Yagami.
I would now that you just uttered those words, I see it.
Yep. So that's an interesting factoid I'm definitely gonna write down later. But I'm not gonna get super detailed with that, of course. But I want to point out, and I wish I would have tossed a picture in. I want to point out with the talking heads, the subtle differences they made to Akechi when hitting the third semester. So the third semester was actually the biggest add-on to the game. Originally, it didn't exist. It just, you ended in December, and then it skips ahead to like Valentine's Day. And then that's kind of where the game ends. So for Akechi, before this point, Akechi is all smiles or over-exaggerated sad faces. There's a couple times that his kind of like true personality comes out, but it's just kind of very brief and you can blow past it really easily. After a few events where his true colors are revealed, he no longer has to put on this facade, and that is shown best through the little portraits. His eyes appear more serious and even dead, and his smiles are more calculated and wicked. There was one point where I just sat back and they show him in the third semester, and his just little portrait just very quickly just snap changes from like this Akechi that was sort of like a happy-go-lucky to I'm dead inside and I hate everything. And I just sat back and I was like, whoa,
Like, I don't know you.
this is great. This is some great like tiny storytelling detail. He also, another fun thing with Akechi is when he's in fighting mode, he becomes a little bit psychotic. And those looks are absolutely terrifying, but I weirdly grew used to them just because I'm like, yeah, this is how he really is. This man.
It's fine.
It's fine. He's definitely, if of course this is a game which are about high schoolers. If he was a couple years older and people were like super into this game, they would definitely look at him and be like, oh, I could fix him. No, you cannot. Trust me, Joker tried. So jumping out of spoilers for a little bit, like I said, I can talk about Akechi for so freaking long. But I wanna move along so we can get to the end of this segment. But I still have a lot to say. So lastly, I want to talk about my actual favorite character, Dr. Maruki. So he's the guy down here with the glasses. Oh. So Maruki was introduced in Royal and is a quirky psychologist who starts to work at Joker's school after an incident with the PE teacher. When I tell you I fell in love with this man instantly.
He seems so sweet.
Oh my god, he's great. I almost put him on our list for last week with the anime crushes, but I was like, that's breaching into game territory and not necessarily anime territory. So he gets his own category.
We got him this week, boys.
All right, yeah. Now you get to know my obsession. They took such care. Say that again?
I said men with glasses.
Honestly. Like, look at my own boyfriend. Anywho.
I know Black Dawn is grateful.
They took such care with how they wrote his character and made sure that you liked every second he was on screen. Especially in 2020, it was really comforting to have a game where a psychologist gives you life advice and tells you that things are going to work out. That's why, and I'm dipping into spoiler territory again. So if you've only played the original Persona 5, I'm going to give you another second to mute or skip ahead to the very end.
Spoiler.
Yeah, big old spoiler warning here. I'm gonna go pause for a second and give you some time.
Maybe we should make a button.
Right, yeah, a big old button that appears on screen like spoiler warning. Hello.
Oh, we should probably do that, especially for whenever I get the script for Mouthwashing done.
True, we should do that. That is my project this week. I will make a button. Okay, that should be enough time. So that's why it is so heartbreaking when you discover that he has a palace and is actually the mastermind behind several things. It's not, yeah. It's not that big of a plot twist when you kind of sit back and think about it.
He's a psychologist. He knows how to manipulate shit.
Exactly. But even so, like when I first played, I think I got it spoiled because of either TikTok or somewhere online. And I was like, oh no. Oh no. The worst part is Maruki throughout all of it is still super friendly and caring towards the main cast, even when they're telling him what he's doing is wrong. So, and this is what even makes it worse. Maruki's whole thing is that he just wants everyone to have the absolute best life and warps the world in a way that makes it possible for everyone to get what they want.
Oh, that's almost kind of tragic.
Hang on, hold on to that thought for a hot second. For
Oh
two
no.
for two of the characters, it's bringing back their parents from the dead, which nearly made me cry.
DeWitt, what?
Yeah.
DeWitt, stop the ride. I want to get off.
The whole beginning of the third trimester or third semester.
What?
Shush. The third semester. I had to make sure that I put semester in here, and even then I still messed it up. The whole beginning of the third semester is you discovering how Maruki has changed things and seeing your friends happy with their new reality. It tricks you into thinking that everything is better this way because everyone is happy. You can even let that be the end of the game. So to quote
Oh,
to
no.
quote to quote Doctor Who, just this once, everybody lives.
Oh, I can hear him say it. I have heard the quote.
But that seriously, like you can choose to just let that be the end of the game where
Yes,
everyone
let
gets
it
the
go.
reality they want.
Oh,
Yeah.
'cause oh, I would struggle. I would struggle
Mhm.
so hard with that.
Oh, trust me, I did. The only reason that it was a relatively easier choice to not accept it was because of Akechi. There's a lot of things that he says where you're just like, you know what, you have a point, my guy. So if you don't accept that reality, you have to confront Maruki, and he'll continuously give you the option to keep things as they are because he knows Joker wants everyone to be happy. But you also have both Akechi and Kasumi in your ear, both with conflicting opinions. You can either accept this new reality where everyone is happy and oblivious to the events of the past year, or you can fight and work to make everything back to the way it was, but open everyone's eyes. Without life's pain, no one grows as a person, and that is not something any of them can accept. Uh, so I would gladly return to this game right at this minute. However, I have two reasons that I won't be. The one is that Black Dawn would flame me for eternity because I have yet to play Persona 3 Reload, which which came out back in February. I just kind of keep putting it off. I don't know why at this point. But the second reason is that Maruki's voice actor passed away in 2022.
Oh.
He was in a couple other things that I had watched and quickly became a favorite of mine. After he passed, I was watching The Way of the House Husband, which, if you have not checked that out, you really should.
I love the way the house husband.
Yes. And he has a very minor part in it. I recognized the voice immediately, and thank God I was home alone because I started tearing up.
Mm.
But as much as I love Maruki and just the whole game in general, it's gonna be a while before I can still go back. Because even right now, I'm like slightly choked up just thinking about that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, that's kind of all I have to say about it. There's a lot that I know I didn't cover, like the personas, the palaces themselves, Joker's friends individually, the boss fights that are unique and fun in their own way. But if I keep talking, it's just gonna go on and on forever. And I think I have talked enough and hopefully convinced maybe a couple people to play it. You know, maybe, you know, or at least listen to the soundtrack because it's amazing. Like, yeah. Thank you for coming to this section of the stream called Don't Hit That Snooze. Next week I'm not gonna promise anything just in case.
Yeah, we will keep that open.
Yeah, we will have ideas and we will execute them when they occur. But we are thankful for you to tune in, and we are going to pop into a break for a little bit, and we will be right back.